What's up, my ninjas? I'm Strydent, and today we are taking a look at Kamen Rider Skull. And you might be asking yourself, why is he doing so many Kamen Riders as of late? It's because Kamen Riders are like Christmas to me. They are like the fucking most awesome shit to go back and review and explain how much I enjoy them. And when they're done right in figure form, it's awesome to just convey that to you guys at large. This guy here is one of the secondary riders in Kamen Rider Double. His real name is Sokichi Narumi, and he is a private detective. His character seems like, or the design, I'm sorry, for his character as a Kamen Rider seems to be based off of the Skull Man. This is there was a manga, an anime, and a live action adaptation. It wasn't that good. None of them are really that good. But the look is awesome, the art is awesome, so I think this is what inspired them. And he kind of feels like a Kamen Rider, so it's kind of funny that they completed the circle by making a Kamen Rider based off of that motif. But Sokichi is kind of he's a badass, man. He's just smooth as hell. He's like the classic, as they say in the show, hard-boiled detective, wears the hats and the long trench coats, and everything he does is smooth. He speaks just very low and very calm, but when he becomes a Kamen Rider, which it's kind of in the show, you kind of feel like from the beginning he's been a Kamen Rider for a while, because he uses it as like a kind of his last ditch, like ace in the hole or whatever, trump card, to fight off a bunch of crazy super powered villains. So anyway, the main character, Shotaro, he's always thought dude is cool, and he adapts a lot of the mannerisms from his boss / surrogate father. But anyway, we're here to talk about the figure, and as you know, SH Figuarts they're like the Rolls Royce of action figures, and every paint detail, most of the articulation, all the sculpted detail, and the accessories are just amazing. There was nothing that they skimped on with this figure. And, you kind of might be wondering also, if that's the case, then what's the point of this long-ass review? I took a lot of pictures. I enjoyed doing a review of this guy. So I have a lot to share with you guys. So sit back and relax, as usual. And I hope you're ready to hear me gush a little bit, So anyway, we're going to get on with the review. So let's do it. Okay, sculpt and paint. This is an SH Figuarts. As you can see, even though it's a simplistic design, the sculpt is on point, the paint is on point. It all works for the benefit of the whole. Every small detail, from the little silver bits on the skull magnum to the little silver and red bits on the lost driver. I mean, immaculate. No slop. I want to say I have about 30 SH Figuarts, somewhere in that ballpark, and I have zero sloppy paint apps on any of them. It's one of those things where, when you're trying to determine if this is a quality line, if this is something that you really want, and it does what you want, or if they've been delivering on the promise that they make when they start out with these lines, you look at these things, and I've been looking at them, and I don't have slop. Even the figures I don't really like that much, were the ones that were kind of like, I like the figure more than the character, put it like that. No slop, and it's no different here. Everything is immaculately done, and all the parts play together really well. That's the one thing you'll hear over and over from me in this review. All the parts work really well for the benefit of the whole. So as a figure, it's kind of a total experience, and I can pose him however I want, and he looks good. And the light hits all these different facets and areas perfectly, and I don't feel like anything is lacking. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a good looking figure. Very good looking figure, very masterfully painted. They didn't go overboard in areas just to give you something to talk about. And now for the most important part, articulation. So I played with this dude for a long time, several days. I got him about 2 weeks ago. And 2 weeks ago, maybe last month. I don't know. I think it was the end of last month, beginning of this month. Anyway, I've been posing him and playing around with him, and the only things, I have 2 issues. One will be in my issues and nitpicks. The other is just something that happens with all SH Figuarts over time. And it's because the joints are made of plastic, the leg is mostly plastic, and then the feet are made of metal. So on certain figures, depending on how you pose them, over time, the legs at the hips get slack. That's my only issue. Only problem, I guess. And it's not really a problem, it's kind of just a eventuality. But every pose, every mannerism, it's all here, and it all looks so good, and it's not hard to pose him. I mean, there's some things you have to get used to because the way this figure is segmented for his joints and everything, and for the articulation in general, it's not exactly the same, but it's very similar to all of the other Kamen Riders that Bandai has released in the SH Figuarts line. All the rest that have armor, even Zoe has similar, and I'm going to be reviewing Zoe next. But it's just real easy to play with. I mean, I'm sitting there playing around. I mean, even that's part of the reason why I took so many pictures, is it was just fun. And you know, I tell you this so much, fun should be the #1 thing that all of these guys are. It shouldn't just be, you got this expensive figure so you could take pictures and put it up on your Facebook group and everybody could be like, fuck, I want to get one. You know what I mean? No, you should be really having fun with it. And when you see the figure on your shelf, you should want to pick him up and play with him. You know what I'm saying? Or pose him or do something. It should always be kind of standing out to you, you know? You should have a lot of those in your collection, at least according to me. This is the way I see it. A lot of my figures, when I walk past, I want to play with them. You know what I mean? So I end up grabbing a bunch of them and I goof off when I have the time, you know? I goof off and I play with them and I enjoy it, you know? And it's fun to see, you know, how all these characters work as, you know, little 3D representations of the guys off of the television shows. This guy's no different though. I've been playing with him in that bike since I got him, making him fight other riders and stuff like that. Like, he's just a dope figure. The articulation is top notch, and I'm going to go into it in more detail right here. So, as you can see, he can easily hold his hat on his head. His head can do the basic left to right, up and down, you know what I mean? And there's, it's a peg, then a neck joint. So you've got one at the top of the neck and the base of the neck. So you got the side to side, so you can look kind of crazy. You got the swivel, you got the look up, the look down. You got the whole 9. Arms can go out that much, up that much. The shoulder pads don't get in the way, as you can see. There's a ball socket joint for the shoulder, so it rotates perfectly to give you that extra bit of But here's where I have an issue, and it's when we move down to the torso. The torso, it looks good, but it's like really limited, you know what I mean? Like look, watch how much I have to move him to get, it even clicks a little bit for me to get him to lean forward, and when he's leaning forward, it looks like he's just standing up straight. And you lean him back, and it's a little bit of work. Most of the work is all at the base of his abdomen. It's like 2 ball pegs, you know, one down there at the belt and one up at the diaphragm. But all that being said, you know, legs move up that much. He still has that double joint in the hip, like most Figuarts have. I mean, essentially, it's identical articulation to Eternal and Double, and I'm assuming Axel. But the knees, you still got the beautiful knees, you got the beautiful hips where when you have him when you have him locked in place, they just look pretty. I mean, it's beautiful. Double jointed knees, they work really well. You've got your twist at the ankle, you can point. See, it points that much. He also has a ankle pivot. Um, you can move up that much, but you also have the ankle pivot. And it's the old school Marvel Legends ankle pivot with the the Sochak Henshin style ankle pivot, kind of, where it's got a hinge in there. More so old school Marvel Legends, I guess. And I like that. It looks good. If you pull out the leg, you get more height on his kicks. And you can use the ankle pivot to give you that extra length. And then, of course, you got the little toe joints. And that's really tough, but it works. It works really well. I never really use it, though. But it's like, I love the fact that it's there. And if I don't use it, it's not going to pop out. But the shoulders, like I told you, shoulder pads are on hinges, so they get out of the way. You also have a bicep swivel, which I forgot earlier, double jointed elbows. You also have a wrist swivel, as well as the up and down hinge joint. And that is Kamen Rider Skull. I mean, he's dope. They knew what they were doing when they decided to, do these particular figures. It doesn't feel like a pure cash-in, even though they reused the same body from Kamen Rider Double. Now, I know Akiba Red always crashes these videos, but he's kind of annoyed that he got punched in the gut. So I think they're going to go back and forth, and we're going to see what they figure out. But you see how on his torso it's a little bit rounder and everything is fuller, even though he's a skinny character. Everything fits in properly. He's a little bit bigger, but his torso is really skinny and it's really flat when you look at it from the side. So it's kind of weird when you're trying to punch him forward or whatnot. You have the choice to either use the diaphragm joint or use the lower abdomen. Overall, though, just posing the figure is not really a problem. It's just that you'll find that your twists will be limited. And I don't know if this is one of those things where it's screen accurate in the sense that the suit actor had trouble twisting in the suit, so there's not a lot of twisting going on in the show, so the figure doesn't do it, because they've done that before with Figuarts. That's how crazy they get with this screen accuracy stuff. Or like how NECA did their version of Batman, and Batman's neck was like, you had the articulation for the head, but the cowl was still one big thick piece, and he couldn't turn his head without turning the cowl. So maybe it's one of those things, I don't know. But it's a cool looking figure, awesome articulation, even the subtle things like this right here, just him standing straight like he's taking a picture. It's just subtle and it looks good. I don't have any, complaints. It's kind of cool that, I don't know, it's just cool seeing all this work. Because I watched a show with my little Strydent. He loves it. He runs around the house screaming, Joker! Cyclone! And he gets into it so much. So it's really cool to watch all that and then turn around and play with the figure, and the figure embodies all of this as well. Overall, you can tell from these pictures I had fun with this guy, and I think you guys would have fun with him too. There's just not many areas, that there are issues, and this is what keeps him fun, you know what I mean? It's funny because I say it so much that it's like you should almost expect it by now. These are just top of the line. And when you compare them to obviously shit that's out there, you end up seeing that, we're not really out here in the US, we don't really get the best when it comes to action figures. We really don't. What we get barely scratches the surface, and a lot of people get used to that because it's just representation of characters that they like. And they don't realize that, it gets better. It's way better than that outside of here. You know what I'm saying? Outside of the US. Anything you want to do, if it's comedic, if it's action-packed, if it's serious. I mean, these guys, they excel at whatever. So, the articulation on this guy is top-notch, just like it is with the other SH Figuarts. And as you see in these pictures, it was a ton of fun to, just goof off with them and, come up with these images that you're seeing before you. So Top-notch articulation, quality. Now, an action figure is really nothing without the accessories, and there he's no slouch in that area at all. Um, the version I got, it was the actual Kamen Rider Skull Crystal, but it came with the Tamashi stage, display stage, or whatever it's called. I'm not a big fan of the stage, but I'll get into that later. But as you can see, 2 sets of like everything hands. So he came with 2 sets of holding things hands, gesturing hands, fists or splayed open hands, and I think there's 2 sets of the splayed open hands. One set is a little bit more gestural, and there's the crystal, the skull crystal head, or crystal skull head. I like it because that's, you know, it's a little different, but I prefer the metallic version with the big crack or S or whatever you want to call it in there. I think that looks perfect. It really embodies the character, and I mean, I think that's the complete form, whereas the see-through or transparent incandescent head is the incomplete form. You also get, well, I'll go into it later. The helmet, the metallic helmet is awesome because you still have the compound eyes. They both have the compound eyes. They just seem to stand out a little bit more on the metallic head. I think because nothing else is, you know, somewhat transparent, so you don't see anything underneath this one. It just pops forward, and that's really cool. You get 2 ascots or scarves. You have one that's flowing in the wind, which is nice. It's got a little wash on the ends, so it looks dirty and worn, like he's been through some battles in that. Then you have one that just drapes down at his back, which is awesome for just, you know, basic, having imposed with your teams, you know, doing whatever. I like that a lot. It's something that some of these figures have and others have the, you know, like the hinged scarf. Here's a detail of the crystal skull, so you can see that it is incandescent and that the compound eyes don't pop as much. And it's funny because it's black. They could have gotten away with not actually putting them there, but instead of finding a cheap way out, they gave it to you. You know, and this is what I always like about SH Figuarts. And you can kind of see the head underneath the helmet, which is dope. Here they are side by side, and they look pretty good together. I mean, from this angle, you can see more of the compound eyes behind the, you know, the bigger forward-facing eyes. You get 2 hats. One clean hat without the cut in it, and the other one that's got the rip in it from his fight with the, what was she called? Taboo Dopant. I think that's awesome that they gave you both instead of just settling and giving you the one. Because what happens if you find a figure that's in proportion with this that you want to put the, you know, the hat on? There you go. Or what happens if you like the incomplete version, which is before he fought the Taboo Dopant? Then, you know, there you go. You can keep that hat. So you have a hat for each version of the character, which is awesome. You know, if you're OCD, you could even say you have a scarf or ascot for each version of the character. That's awesome too. So, you know, you're given choices, and I like that. And anytime they give me accessories to give me choices, that makes me happy. Now, changing the head is a pain in the ass, and it's one of my problems and nitpicks. Maybe it's just my version, but this little peg tends to slide off, so half of it is stuck in the bottom portion and half of it will be stuck in the top portion, so you got to watch out for that. And while we're talking about problems and nitpicks, let's talk about the stage. This is not one of my favorite stages. It seems overly complex, even though I get what it's for. It's a lot, and you know, it seems clunky, you know, for displays. It's the only one I have. I get it. Each of those slots is for the actual Gaia memory prop. There are buttons on the top that you can press down that I'm pretty sure hit the button on that thing to make it say whatever it's supposed to say. So, you know, that's kind of cool. I don't get this part. I haven't done any research, so, you know, don't kill me. But you know, it looked like it's someplace for you to like kind of put props like weapons and stuff like that. But it's kind of weird. So I'm just like, I prefer the simpler ones because from a practicality standpoint, when I take pictures, if I light things right, you can't even see those. I mean, a lot of the pictures I've done here I've used those exact stands. Um, this one, like I said, once again, is just too clunky and big, and it's kind of a pain, you know. I mean, I guess I'll find movements and poses, probably airborne poses, that will allow for him, you know, for me to use this. But as you can see, that's where the Gaia memories go. And I don't really have any Gaia memories. I don't get into the props like that. I just prefer the simpler, the much simpler stands. What I have here is the Mafex in the front, the Revoltech to the right, and the Figma to the left. So as you can see, it works. I mean, once you hook him up, it works. It'll hold him. It's just that when you try to move the actual, you know, any of the arm, it just the peg itself that's holding them. All of the pieces are you can separate them. It's modular, so you can pull the top peg, top stem off, and then it all connects to that joint. The joint is in there really short, so if you try to move it and you've tightened the hinges, it's just gonna drop it. It uses the same kind of screw and nut system that the Figma uses and the Mafex uses. The only one that doesn't, I think this is the Mafex and this here is the Figma. The only one that doesn't use the same type of, you know, of the things I have, the only one that doesn't use the same one is the Revoltech one, which you'll see in just a second. Revoltech uses a Revoltech joint, which is kind of clever. You'd think Figma would have done the same thing, but no, they don't. They do two different things, which is cool. You know what I mean? Like everyone has their own way of, you know, achieving the whole joint process. You know what I'm saying? These are the original Play Arts stands, and I use them for a lot of my older reviews. As you can see, they have the basic slot, and you stick it in. That just sounds so bad. The slot that you can extend and, you know, retract. But as you can see here, the peg is really short on the display stage. I don't know, maybe because it's the first one I've ever had, it's weird for me to use. It's in good shape though for a secondhand, you know, item. It's in really good shape, so I'm not complaining. I'm just saying these are the things that are weird to me. I mean, look at the Revoltech one. It's very deep. It's a longer peg, so it holds better. I never have this thing pop off. But in just doing this review, when I was taking pictures, as I would try to move and, you know, bend the hinge back and forth, it would just pop off because the hinge was tight and the peg was too small. So I had to turn it, it just popped right off. You know, and turning it doesn't have anything to do with the hinge's tightness as far as, you know, screwing the hinge together. So I'm not a big fan of these things. I'm going to stick with the simpler one. I mean, I will find things that I possibly could use this for, but I'm still going to stick with what I know, and what I know are your Figma, Mafex, and Revoltech. It's mostly the Figma and the Mafex that I use a lot. For the upcoming icon stuff for Mr. Miracle, I'm probably going to use my Dark Knight Return stand, because I have two of them, because I have two different versions of that figure. But anyway, articulation-wise, like I said, he can do any gesture, any mannerism that you've seen Narumi do in the actual TV series. The driver, I'm sorry, the Skull Magnum, it's awesome. It doesn't do the other mode. There's like a mode where the barrel actually bends forward, bends down, and there's like a smaller barrel that pops out. You can't do that. At least if you can, I haven't figured that out yet. Maybe the standard Skull release does that, but as you can see, all the paint's there. Every detail that needs to be detailed is detailed. I didn't skimp at all. And I get it too. You know, some of you might say, oh, it's just, you know, black, silver, and red, and a little bit of white. But they still put it in very small places, you know, and it works. It makes the figure look awesome. And that's the goal. You know, I've said it before, a lot of times it seems like American companies don't try to compete with each other so much. You know, like it's an art form. You should be trying to put your best foot forward, you know, pride. And you don't see that much with a lot of the American companies when it comes to action figures and such. You just see them make action figures, and whatever we get, we get. The process may be shitty, you know, the figures themselves may be shitty, and they don't seem to care. Bandai gives a shit, and everything they make shows it, you know what I mean? So it makes me happy that we actually get this level of quality when it comes to, you know, these characters. And Skull, like I said, he's a favorite of mine, so seeing the accessories done with so much care, I mean, he only has this one weapon, so seeing his accessories done with such care really makes me happy, because it means I got a quality product, and I don't have to worry about pieces falling apart, about losing stuff. It's all pretty awesome and well done, and it is the way it is, you know. They got it right the first time, and that's all you could ask for your action figures. You know, like I said earlier, and I'll say it until I stop making reviews and probably afterwards, your figures are supposed to be fun, you know? If they can't be bothered to make the figure sturdy enough for you to do things and make the, you know, various accessories work well enough with the figure that you actually can utilize them, then what's the point, you know? I don't buy my figures just to have them sit in a box, you know what I mean? I buy them so I can play with them and I can display them. So, you know, they did a really good job with all of his accessories, his extra hands, and, you know, etc., etc. So you guys will not be disappointed there. The bottom line here is that you have a quality piece of tokusatsu merchandise. I mean, the fact that even though he's not, I have him right there on an $8 Maisto 1/12 scale bike, and he looks just as good as the Hard Boilder, or Skull Boilder, I think is what his is called. I didn't overpay for that bike, and he looks just as good on that thing as he would on the bike that they made for him that is well overpriced. And you know, if that is your logic, you know what I'm saying? You hold out until you find a deal. This is a good figure to get, you know what I mean? I waited, I found a deal, and then I jumped at it. I couldn't pass up the deal. I mean, it had to stand and everything. If you buy them secondhand, a lot of what I pointed out will be the things you need to look out for, like the neck joint and the, you know, slackness of the thigh joints. But besides that, this is a quality Kamen Rider with a lot of potential for other things you can do, you know, situationally, and as far as posing options and stuff, display options, you have a lot of them. So, you know, he's just as good as some of the other ones, even though his color scheme and design scheme in general is pretty simple as far as Kamen Riders go. Yes, his body is a reuse of the, what is that, Joker body, but it's still well done body to begin with. There's enough detail on it to make it its own thing, you know what I mean? And I'm not annoyed that they reused parts, because in the show, that's the way all of those riders are, with the exception of Axel. So, you know, if you like the show, this guy is, it's an easy win. You need to do it. If you like Kamen Riders, you should look into him. At least watch the show, look into the character. You might like him. He actually doesn't go for that much these days online. You can get him for under 50 bucks. That's always a plus for me, because I always want my figures within the, I don't want to pay more than 40 bucks for an import figure. And most of the times, I don't even pay 40 bucks for mine. So, you know, if you can find him for that online, which you probably will, jump on it, because it's well worth it. It's more than worth it. A way to save money is to buy those Maisto bikes. There's so many different ones. You'll be really happy that you decided to do that. So anyway, this has been my review of Kamen Rider Skull Crystal, and this is my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'm glad you guys, you know, decided to sit and listen to what I had to say. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you see this guy, get him. Masterclass stuff right here. So anyway, I will catch you on the next video. Peace outside.